Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back with another live stream. Today is Monday, May 28th. Let me say that correctly. Memorial Day in the United States, so that has reduced our amount of news down a little bit. Maybe it's even reduced the number of exchanges I've had because I feel like I should have been able to trade one of these. I guess I don't particularly need to switch the two. Well, I guess I can't do anything anyways. I need to destroy a bunch of minions, play a bunch of low-cost minions, and play a bunch of druid class cards. This is coming back, I guess, on Wednesday, so we are good to go. Let's hop into a game. I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, Druid Paladin? No, that's not Druid. I'd be playing Hand Druid to play Druid class cards, so let's do it. I'm thinking maybe my recording software has, in an update, finally figured out how to use the Hearthstone deck tracker app overlay screen without me instantly at the beginning of every recording reaffirming to use that window, and that does seem like that's the case. What doesn't seem like it is the case, however, is the window is not in the right place. The window for you is right here where it's supposed to be. The window for me, if you imagine where the mouse cursor is, 4 inches to the right on my second screen. And that's some weirdness because now I don't really know where I would trade, like where I'd put the mouse. Like if I'm hovering over here, it's not really working. I am done with LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens. I don't think I will be playing another LEGO game until I get a new video card, and probably about 4 years. Like, I'm much more interested in building things with real-world LEGO now than I am playing the LEGO games, which in a lot of ways are LEGO for people who don't like LEGO, or just like the minifigs and like the break LEGO. There's never been a really creative element to LEGO games. They tried to add a couple of features in a couple of games that were creative and showed how you actually built LEGO, but it hasn't been implemented well. And the Force Awakens added instead a third person over the shoulder shooting element, which is just like out of nowhere. Doesn't seem appropriate for a kid's game at all. But because I was playing that game, I turned off all the dots per inch resolution on my monitor. So that's why for many weeks we've had the screen just kind of be really small, and arguably it's still not in the right position. I may have to go in there and change it. There's also been a Windows update that changes how some applications are treated as far as whether it ignores the high dots per inch, which I need the high dots per inch because I'm looking at a TV 10 feet away across the room on the wall, so I can't literally read things. So for several weeks I've not been able to really read the cards too well. Not that that's too much of an issue, but it has just been kind of a struggle in general.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can just click here and get that to work. Yes. By the way, 9 minutes ago, Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2 Episode 10 aired on my channel, so almost certainly no notification, which means there's probably a good chance that nobody's seeing this. which frankly on a Memorial Day weekend was a decent chance there wasn't going to be anybody who saw this stream anyways. It seems like as long as I stay clicked on my Chrome browser on the other screen, I can read things, but every time I click over here, it is going to bring up the Hearthstone deck tracker in the wrong place, which is right over the screen. Now I am playing ranked right now. You might as well play ranked. Memorial Day play could be very bad today, or it could be rather good. We'll make a little bit of progress on everything good. It could be that a lot of people are playing, or it could be that a lot of people are not playing. Now I had a bit of a celebration, almost, at least for me, being involved in this party, and there were several people involved. At least for me, it really had nothing to do with Memorial Day. If anything, I was upset with having this on Memorial Day because I didn't want to drive around while other people might be drinking excessively and potentially increasing the odds of car wrecks, or shooting off fireworks or shooting off guns in the air, which also increase the danger, which all of those are tiny insignificant dangers that you should not base your life choices around, but you consider it. That you can be a little bit more safer to have this. But I went to this party and we cooked hot dogs and the general American food, and barbecued the hot dogs quite well. They tasted way better. I told them to cut little slits in the hot dogs because I saw that on a cooking show that it gave them more flavor, and it certainly did. And barbecuing them was way better than what I had eaten hot dogs a couple weeks earlier and just cooked them on a stovetop grill basically, and it did not have any flavor at all. It was very bad, and that's my at most annual eating of hot dogs because I don't like hot dogs. They're cheap processed meat with too much salt in them. I'll eat them once. They tasted really good, but I just had, because I'd seen a cooking show, a desire to eat them once. Apparently, there's a family rumor that I used to eat hot dogs directly out of the refrigerator, just the hot dog wieners, when I was a child, so they eventually had to get a different refrigerator that I couldn't, as a 2-year-old, open and just grab whatever I wanted to eat. Yeah. And apparently even the pediatrician was going, your cholesterol's too high. I'm like, oh, jeez. Obviously nobody was paying attention to their kid at that time. If I can just wander around as a 2-year-old and grab food out of the kitchen, it means I could have wandered around and grabbed knives out of the kitchen too, grabbed the fork, stabbed it in the outlet. But I kind of already knew that was the case. Let's talk about video games instead of this historical bad parroting. Bandai Namco, according to Gematsu, is considering Sword Art Online games for the Switch. The company is considering if it would be a positive outlook. I think in a real way they are going to have to jump on Sword Art Online games, and generally in Japanese franchises, particularly manga anime franchises like this, you jump on it and you make games for everything, and you sell because you know Sword Art Online as a series may continue for a very long time, but it's never going to have an increase in popularity. Sword Art Online is a great example of that because .hack/whatever There was several games by different subtitles. All was this huge anime that was really popular because it got mostly some Western coverage and aired on Cartoon Network, and they sold, but nobody is going to try and make a new .hack game or a new .hack anime. Instead, what happens is you make Sword Art Online, which is just ripping off the general idea, which all of these ideas are isekai is what they're called, ideas as far as animes. Another world animes. You get into another world either by magic or by VR or by some other circumstances, and because you're in this other world, you can live a completely different life than what you would be expected or what you would assume you would have in Japanese society. And then with the isekai scenario, you often get it partnered with a harem scenario where you're in a different world and you're special, therefore you're also getting a harem of girls or even guys, if that's the type of show you're making, that follow you around and look at you adoringly.
Try one.
Which too has a lot of roots to what a realistic Japanese society wants versus what they create for themselves and get, where for the most part, once you're out of school, you're not really dealing with any females other than your co-workers, and then you wouldn't date your co-workers because that would cause rumors and embarrass you, and you wouldn't date anybody in school because that would cause rumors and embarrass you. There's really no scenario at all in Japanese society to date people too much. Also in Japanese society, 2 dates and you're married, basically. If you go on 2 official dates, you're boyfriend and girlfriend as far as their society is concerned. So there's not a lot of room for experimentation, dealing with people, learning to get along. Best you can try is like group outings, and not call them a date, but there's not a lot of that happening either. Remember, Japanese schools also heavily push you to do activities, club activities, which then puts you with more of your school friends. It's just a really bad system, and there's really no opportunity to meet anyone, and that's why anime is so popular, is because it is literally down to the point of a fantasy that you will find or be able to find that many potential wives, girlfriends, whatever. And then later on, it doesn't get talked about too much, but there's literally just no like support for women in Japan if they're working. There's like no maternity, paid maternity leave and support there to let a woman have a job and have a child and have enough income to have any kind of independence. So women in Japan, as I've heard it explained, have to, if they want to have a child, they basically have to give up any kind of financial independence and solely rely on a man. But let's just go with man. There's not a lot of homosexual relationships in Japan, but she would have to rely on the man to bring home all the cash. Now in Japan, though, it is kind of weird because the man brings home all the cash, but it is societally expected that the woman actually handles all the banking and accounting, and so she literally gives him an allowance from his own paycheck. But that being said, there's really no financial independence there. There's no a Murphy Brown-esque, Murphy Brown, that's an old reference, scenario where in the Murphy Brown TV series in later seasons, she got pregnant from a surrogate, I think, or the father wasn't involved at all, and she had the child, and she continued to work her job as I believe she was a news reporter. There's just no way to do that. Boy, is that a strange rant, but there frankly isn't that much news today, because of the Memorial Day, so I guess that's fine. So yeah, it's kind of weird that Bandai Namco hasn't already started development for the Switch. The only thing I could think is that Sword Art Online has already begun development through the perhaps through cell phone versions, and so maybe they are going, they've overcommitted to making cell phone games, and they're thinking there's really no reason to make a Switch game. I would heavily disagree. I think it is definitely still a very different market for if somebody would buy a game for the Switch, which, face it, right now there's not a lot of Switch games that would compete, particularly since the Switch is doing a lot of eShop and they're doing a lot of eShop and indie games. Besides the Nintendo first-party titles, we're not seeing a lot of anime games on the Switch yet. We're not seeing a lot of other Japanese companies on board. Everybody was late to the Switch, certainly, because frankly the Switch just doesn't look very powerful. The fact that Resident Evil 7 is this streaming edition is another example of people coming late to the Switch and just not knowing how to develop for it. It frankly shouldn't be too difficult to develop for the Switch past developing for a cell phone, because they're both cell phone processors, but maybe there is something in the Tegra that's a little bit different. In comparison, Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet came out for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, so they certainly are pushing that forward. What's funny here is the pictures showing the original cast of Sword Art Online, and that's not the story that's airing right now. It's right now we're doing Sword Art Online, Galgun Online, the side story, which is a completely different character that maybe will sell better than the original characters. Maybe not. Depends kind of what the Japanese audience wants. Really is quite a non-story that Bandai Namco considering Sword Art Online games. It's an entire article based on let's see, I believe a single response through a fan question Q&A, like just to say we have nothing to announce at this time. It would have been the exact same similar thing to say. Let's just click through all of these really quickly and see. We've got like 9 druid cards. I do have work today. I need to chop up all the basically past month's worth of Hearthstone videos, chop them up, maybe start them uploading, and then I think I'm going to Borderlands 2. I was thinking maybe playing Brutal Legend to be something in between Darksiders 2 and Borderlands 2, but I feel like I've had enough of a break between the two that, yeah, it may be just time. Also, I believe Borderlands 2 is installed on my computer because of the spring cleaning sale, and that works well for me, I guess. We have a game on Steam. This is, I don't know what you call this. It's called Triggering Simulator, 33% for $2 off. It clearly is designed to be, I think, offensive, but I'm not even 100% sure. Let's see what the Triggering Simulator is. A very short first-person shooter with poor level design, terrible gameplay, and optimization, and broken AI. A trash tier game for hardcore asset flippers known. Let's see. And then they're naming themselves. Okay. Yes, this is a fake game. But they're even now at their own point pointing out fake games. Which there is something, I guess, to say there about that. The Screen 7, the person behind Screen 7, which is the publisher, I believe, of the Cat Lady, if I'm recalling correctly, decided to make a trailer combining a lot of the trailer videos that of terrible games coming out on the 28th, which would be today. So a lot of terrible games promising to come out when I guess they assume that nobody is looking, which might very well be the case. As far as we know, the employees, if there are any employees that look at games as they come out at Valve, may have taken the day off. And so he's pointing out bad games and kind of pointing them out to Valve, and I responded back because I've been on that same mental journey. At a certain point, it does, as somebody who's looking at all of the games that come out, basically, it does occur to me maybe I should just start flagging games, although there isn't really a flag that's appropriate for games that are extremely low effort, or start pointing them out to Valve. But in the end, as I was about to send out a similar tweet, the letter came out that has now been rescinded from Valve that all of the well-selling visual novel games, sex games on Steam, arguably it was more sex games and not a ton of them were actually visual novels, but they got mislabeled as visual novels in a lot of reports. A lot of those companies got letters saying they were going to be kicked out of Steam after being on Steam for years, and then they got a rescinding letter saying we're reevaluating games, which is still not a firm that was a complete mistake, you have nothing to worry about response. It's and a lot of people did not cover it accurately there. As far as we know right now, or tomorrow, the same games that got the letter would get another letter or just be kicked off directly. And I imagine if Valve learned anything, it probably would be better to kick them off directly and do it in one fell swoop on a Friday instead of sending letters. The lawsuits will probably come flying regardless, so you might as well just bear the brunt of the bad curse in one step versus the other. Maybe it was a internal dispute that became an external dispute, and some people wanted to kick off those games and some people don't. Ideally, I think there is a group in Valve, and this is what I told Screen 7 is like, I was going to report all these low effort games, but I cannot trust some of Valve to not use / misinterpret a call to ban or censor bad games as an excuse, as a reason, or to ban or censor good games such as your own. So it's just better not to be the voice of censorship. Now, is any of this actually going to be heard by Screen 7? I don't know. I tweeted them. Maybe they blocked me. Maybe they muted me. Maybe they did that a long time ago.
I don't need any of you.
we will have to see if there's any kind of response on Twitter to my comment. But the thing is, as best as I can tell, from an outside perspective, I think there is a group that is at the very least ambivalent, that I would assume is kind of the majority group in Valve, that don't want to ban or censor anything. They just want to leave everything alone. They very consistently in the past and in interviews have just said, we don't want to do something because we may not like it, because we were very surprised on visual novels and how well they sold. And if they had been left to their own decisions and not let any visual novels in on Steam, they probably would have not made millions and millions of dollars at this point. And so there's that group, which I would call the old group, and then there's a group that I kind of have to call the Campo Santo group, with the understanding that Campo Santo was hired by somebody and brought in, so there probably were some, I don't know if I want to continue calling people SJWs or if I should call them progressive extremists. I kind of like the idea of changing my vocabulary a little bit and going away from SJWs to progressive extremists. It sounds a little bit, it sounds a little bit more professional. So I feel like there's a group of progressive extremists that may have been involved, may have pushed for Campo Santo to be hired, and Campo Santo we already knew were progressive extremists in their reaction to trying to DMCA or threatening to DMCA PewDiePie because of him saying an offensive word while playing a completely different game. Like causing controversy to the point where Firewatch was the game for Campo Santo was heavily brigaded downward. Surprisingly, now that Campo Santo is part of Valve, Firewatch is back on sale, and Firewatch is rated very highly. So I am not sure if it just naturally the brigading subsided and people forgot about it, and like nobody's gonna waste their time every week writing a new review and buying another copy of the game to review it. So eventually it would get back to a certain level of probably more accurate reviews. Although arguably I'm not sure that Firewatch really should be rated very good at all. It should probably be somewhere closer just to good. It could also be that as soon as they got into Valve, they deleted a bunch of negative reviews. But if they did that, nobody caught it. So that would be the ultimate betrayal too, is that as soon as a company was purchased by Valve, they immediately started doing vote manipulation for their older games. Like that would totally be unacceptable. Moving on, we have PC Gamer 5 new Steam games you probably missed this week. I want to look at this just to see if I missed any of these games. So the list is Raft, we didn't miss that. Unforeseen Incidences, I don't think I missed that one. Egypt Old Kingdom, I think I may very well have missed this one. And Slipstream, I don't think we missed this one. And this. That. Just keep on doing damage.
For the wild.
Cyrilam 3, I'm pretty sure we looked at that one. And that's it. I went through my wish list, and I'm pretty sure we did see unforeseen incidences, but I'll leave that Steam page open. Egypt, Old Kingdom, I'm pretty sure we didn't see. I went through a lot of games and I looked at some of them, and some of them have been out for a pretty long time and they were on the wish list and they still don't have any reviews. And so as I was going through that, removing things from the follow list because the follow list doesn't have any value to be used really. I could go back and put a lot of the sex games and the visual novels that I really wouldn't ever cover back on the follow list, and maybe I'll do that, but otherwise my follow list is now empty and it's all just wish listed, and it's probably better to just leave it that way. So what was I going to say? Man, lost my train of thought. No, you gotta play this. And
I don't need any of you.
and that. Yeah, so I went through the wish list and filtered out a few things, removed a few things. For the most part, my wish list is kind of where I guess should be, I would say. For just falling back down the 20, it doesn't really matter. So we need to destroy 3 more minions, and we'll just play more like Paladin. It's kind of where it needs to be as far as small games, indie games, and old games, and now it just kind of needs to grow for new games. There were a few games I saw that a year or 2 ago, or 2 years ago, they were talked about and hyped up a lot by the mainstream gaming media. But they weren't really fan favorites, and there's definitely a disconnect between what fans like, particularly on PC, and what gets hyped, particularly on things like Your Gamer, PC Gamer, and Giant Bomb, which are the 3 mainstream gaming medias that I can bear to still follow. As far as whatever Kotaku, Vice, and other people have to say, I don't particularly follow them at all. And we're trying out TechRaptor, and I'm not even sure I would call TechRaptor mainstream gaming media because it's just too small. It's more independent journalism. And I would say it falls closer to me as an independent journalist than it does
Job's done.
than it does Giant Bomb.
Ash to ash.
That being said, I cleaned up my wish list in the direct intent that the Steam Summer Sale happens and works rather well for everybody. I did all the spring cleaning events and got that badge, and I have the mystery box that came along with that. If the mystery box is some kind of random game, that would be amazing. Right now, for example, is Deus Ex Mankind Divided is on sale, and if I just bought that complete collection, I think I would get the entire deluxe edition of that for less than $20, which is pretty good. At least I know I'd get it cheaper than if I bought the game alone and then got the season pass. I However, I literally just don't have the funds. And that is going to be a pretty consistent issue going forward for a while. It's not like my YouTube channel ever really funded my Steam account. That was always investment towards the future, and also the fact that I'm owning games. So it's not like I'm writing the cost of games off as as an expense on taxes or anything.
Smart moves. I concede.
So, but not being monetized and not getting even a few dollars or a few pennies like I used to be. I was getting $2, $3, $2.50 maybe, somewhere around that every rolling 7 days, just on ad revenue. That certainly would have covered a couple of 99-cent games, for however many there were during the summer sales. Now I'm looking at the summer sale and I'm still very much going to just buy the Pinball Arcade Pro Packs to get those tables before they disappear June 30th and nothing else. And I imagine during the summer sale I'm also going to add a bunch of things to the wish list. I think we'll probably have a special video when the summer sale happens too, because those are kind of videos I need to do. Alright, we've got a bit of a challenge here. Win 3 games with the Paladin and Priest. Paladin or Priest. We have a Murloc Paladin. Let's play and see if we can get back up to rank 19. So what is this game? Egypt Old Kingdom. It's a strategy simulator. There's a Great Pyramids pace. I can see why, had I seen this game, which I don't think I did, I could certainly see why I would have skipped this game, because it does, for the most part, look like an Age of Empires type game, except for you're just building and playing on the Nile in Egypt. The graphics look pretty good. And I do have this kind of desire to play more Egyptian-based stories. I'm not sure if I particularly want a strategy simulator there, though. I think would be more interested in just playing a mummy-based game, or a game based on the mummy. Mummy movies, Mummy TV series, the old Mummy movies. Like they have also a game in the bundle called Bronze Age, and a game in this bundle called Marble Age. So it's kind of different ages of the same thing.
Let's move quickly.
Let's see. There's 11 negative reviews to 66 positive reviews on this game. Let's see. It says too many bugs is 1 negative review. So it seems like it's a slightly buggy game, and it's very possible that PC Gamer was just padding out their list of games you missed, because it always has to be like 5 games you missed. Slipstream, I'm pretty sure we talked about. It is a Burnout racing arcade game clone. MAME has an entire emulator just built around making Burnout run smoothly, which that is true for a few games, but certainly not all games. And it speaks to a niche fan base that I was unaware of for Burnout. Seralim 3 is the procedurally generated RPG Maker looking game that looks terrible. We definitely looked at that. Speaking of emulators, the Scum VM team came out and announced what it's almost a disappointing announcement, not for Scum VM but for Cyan and the creators of Myst. They came out and directly said, yes, Real Myst 1 or whatever version of Myst that you're getting in the new releases and bundles of Myst is going to be using the Scum VM engine. Riven, the sequel to Myst, is also going to be using the Scum VM engine when they re-release it. And Myst 3 Exiles, which is a game I don't have right now and want to buy, and I can't really find, it's not on Steam. That is not running on the Scum VM engine, but their spin-off virtual machine called Residual that was designed for 3D rendering for Grim Fandango and basically nothing else. As LucasArts tried to move into 3D animation, it used a slightly modified thing. So the first 3 Myst games, at least 3 versions of the first 3 Myst games, are coming via that. And the reason why that's slightly disappointing is it kind of says that they're probably not putting any new polish on it. They're definitely not running a new engine on it. It would have been asking too much and probably a waste of Cyan's team, since they're a pretty small company. It would have been a waste of their time to say, no, I want you to make the entirety of Myst and Riven in Unreal Engine 4. That's something that would make a lot more sense if it was being done by a fan group or something like that. It's something that I imagine Cyan may at some point do, but it's not part of the 25th anniversary. It doesn't seem like they're doing anything with it. Now, the bigger question is when you get into Uru and Myst 4 and Myst 5, those games more than ever probably do need a lot of work to run smoother and work better. Myst 5 in particular had a drawing mechanic that never really worked, and so if that doesn't get touched and that doesn't get improved on, it's just going to be meh. I think probably it is going to be meh. There's a way over funding, and so it's going to feel like an under delivery for what they actually deliver for the 25th anniversary Myst. And in a lot of ways, I don't want Cyan to waste too much time. They're doing what they should do, certainly. They're releasing these games so that they can still make money off of them and people can still play them, but they're not, in my opinion, wasting everybody's the actual developers' time, which certainly is a possibility where you could have a significant number of programmers and new blood, because there really is a second generation at Cyan now. It's really not the people that made Myst that are still working there and running the show. It's new employees that have learned the ropes, and they need to take over. They need to make something more. It was even a little weird when they put out an update for Abduction and added more content. They really shouldn't be doing that. They should be working on their next game, which we know they're working on their next game. I don't know if they've announced a name for it. TechRaptor has an article. SpaceX's Starlink prototype internet satellites are now good enough for gaming. what in particular? Let's see. The first prototype satellite from Starlink broadband the internet network were launched by SpaceX 3 months ago, and today Elon Musk has taken to Twitter to share how the twin satellites are doing. The quote is pretty good. Tintin A and B, Tintin being a reference to the British cartoon, I assume.
Reporting for duty. To battle!
Beloved British cartoon character. Oddly never came to the United States. Let's see. Tintin A and B are both closing the link to ground with phased array at high bandwidth. The phased array thing is a relatively new technology where they've figured out how to put radio waves inside of radio waves at different phases, which significantly increases the amount of bandwidth available.
To battle!
And apparently it's implemented in a commercial standard faster than I thought it would. Phased array at high bandwidth, low latency, less than 25, or it doesn't say less than, it says low latency, 25 milliseconds, which arguably is not low latency compared to a wired connection where you might be getting 13, 8, or less than 10 is ideal. But frankly, even less than 10 inside a home network might not be capable of doing that. But 25 milliseconds is much better than what other satellites were offering, where it was 60 or 80 milliseconds
I will fight with honor.
of latency. And so the quote goes, good enough to play fast response video games. There is, I suppose, always a question about how latency and bandwidth is affected when you start having way too many people on the network. Often networks are hugely overfilled and flooded with the number above the recommended amount of users and the recommended amount of users. There's another quote, will Tintin be only demo units Starlink deploys before the start of full satellite production and development, or will there be a few more? Do you have an aspirational timeline for when Starlink would begin commercial services? Is somebody asking him, and Elon Musk's response is, we'll do another rev before final design. So there's still experimental things, but there is hope in the next decade or so, I would guess. I hope that you might actually be able to get away from your internet service provider and use satellite and get faster speeds with less interference and less, maybe lower prices, but maybe very high prices. That is also a thing, is generally in the United States, if you have satellite internet, it's because it's your only option and you literally cannot compete, and so the prices don't go down due to competition. Arguably in the United States, do prices ever go down because of competition? They say they do, but I think this is more religion than actual truth at this point. Like I have honestly, with maybe the exception of gas prices, which maybe even that isn't due to competition, I've never seen anything in the United States go down, and it clearly, obviously, be because there was competition. It doesn't seem like it's a factor. It doesn't seem like people in the United States price compare enough for that to be a factor. Oops, I should have attacked. Well, whatever. So, yeah, it might be incredibly expensive to get satellite internet. It probably will be at the beginning, and it will probably be for way longer than the next decade. Remember, Elon Musk is also the owner of Tesla, and those cars, as cool as they sound, are also extremely, extremely expensive, and have that slight problem of the batteries not lasting as long as a potential engine might last. But I'm not gonna poo-poo on progress. There's a game on Steam called Gaki Game, G-A-C-H-I. Is that some kind of insult? Probably, because this is one of those fake games from that. That's flooding Steam, so. It looks awful, like all the fake games they make. I'm not really sure why they waste their time.
Incredible.
Like, what are they trying to do? Is this really just an effort from people to ruin Steam? And see, that's the funny thing, is Screen 7 is pointing out a bunch of bad games, and I don't think he got any of the games from two of the major people flooding Steam.
Thank you.
Because I don't think he saw them. I think inherently that is the issue, is that unless you're doing something crazy like me and looking at every single game, or nearly every game that comes out on Steam, you just don't see the bad games. Which means Steam Discovery 2.0 works. And I think, for the most part, it does. There are a handful of games that come out and nobody sees, and maybe they are good. But in the end, we're missing a few hidden gems that are still on Steam. They're just not being promoted by anybody. Meanwhile, all the terrible games are ultimately not being seen by anybody. And it really is just a statement on the games media, particularly the mainstream games media, that have the eyes to do their job a little bit better and start covering games that they just find on Steam, instead of covering games that they're getting paid under the table to advertise, and covering games made by their friends. And it also is a statement, I imagine, on the creators of these small hidden gems to actually advertise their games. But to be fair, I assume a lot of these small-time gem games are sending out press releases to everybody and just being ignored. Let's see, so we've been going 45 minutes. We probably need to keep things pretty tight today, because by the time I am done with the next recording, I probably will be done with news, unless I just hold back and go rather slow, which I have been so far. And we need to play a bunch of druid cards and minions that cost 5 or more, and win more paladin, a priest victory. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. When you subscribe, click a notification, click that notification bell. Since YouTube has gone insane with all the garbage it's doing, it's not worth getting into. I am considering making a Google Calendar or an email list directly, so that people can follow that. I'm not sure exactly how I could get the videos to a Google Calendar to set off an alarm so that people could follow that way, but clearly there needs to be some other system introduced. so that people actually get notifications, because YouTube in itself is not trustworthy. And it's kind of ridiculous. Like, I'll trust Google Calendar and I'll trust the people that work at Google, but YouTube is just so untrustworthy based on past actions, based on their history, that I won't trust them, and for good reason. The other thing is Steam Summer Sale is happening. Remember, gift me games during that summer sale, or gift me gift cards right now. Either one of those works very well to help me build up games. As I build up more games, I have more options. As I have more options, I play more games. And I'm gonna start playing Borderlands 2, so I'm gonna hit into a pretty hardcore phase of just covering games and trying to make a lot more content. Whereas this past month, playing Lego Star Wars Force Awakens turned out to be a bad mistake of just not being interested in playing at all. If I had, I am at some point going to try and buy a bigger hard drive SSD and have 2 or 3 games going at the same time, and keep recordings that way. That way I can switch between a couple of things. That wouldn't have really worked too well with the Lego game anyways, because of all the weird video settings I had to change. That's it for this recording though. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, May the 28th, Memorial Day in the United States. I don't believe it's Memorial Day anywhere else, but people in the comments could let me know about that. We're already on the European account, and because it's Memorial Day, there's not a ton of news. There wasn't a ton of news in the weekend. I potentially made a mistake by filtering out a lot of garbage games. We need to play Paladin and Priest right now, then we're going to go to Druid class cards. Like, I probably could have ranted about some garbage games that I just decided to close this weekend. That has left me with fewer games to cover, but also I'm going pretty slow, so I imagine we may still very easily get 3 45-minute recordings, this being the second one. Gematsu has an article, Waku Waku Sweets Amai Okeshi Ge Dekeru Kana has been announced for Switch, due out this summer in Japan, and so that translates, and thank goodness that every now and then at least they translate the names of these Japanese games to Waka Waka Sweets, can you make delicious sweets for the Switch.
Hello?
And it has a screen of an anime girl baker holding a very fancy looking strawberry cake, or maybe strawberry topped cheesecake.
The light dims, but we fight.
So I imagine this is a it is a cook so delicious type game, except for specifically focused around the Japanese sweets, which they certainly do love their sweets, but pretty much everybody does. They just have a special Japanese side. So it says down here you'll try, take the challenge of making various sweets including cake, macaroons, and Japanese sweets, and play games while enjoying learning how to make the sweets. It might even be a cooking game where you are specifically actually learning how to cook. This does have an anime girl on it, but let's always remember not every anime girl is a large-breasted, scantily clad anime girl, so this, like, she's fully clothed and appropriately dressed. On the trailer site, and I cannot instantly figure out what to play to what is clickable here. Well, that one. It's all in Japanese, so I can't figure out how.
Your magic shall not save you.
Yeah, if there's some kind of trailer video to play, it's like just click everywhere. Yeah, if there's something on the screen, I can't read it, so I can't find it. But is this gonna come to the West? I could see it getting translated and coming to the West. It's kid friendly. It's basically just a cooking thing. There, I played down the water. Yeah, if I had played this, they played this, and this probably would have killed both of them. It's probably going to be an eShop game if it does get translated to the West. I don't think you really need to translate Japanese sweets as anything new. We don't need to turn sushi rolls into donuts like the Pokemon cartoon did in the old days. And for the most part, I think you're probably higher than 50% that most people around the world would like Japanese sweets. Sometimes they do use red bean paste, and for a very long time Japan didn't have sugar, so they were sweetening things using some odd tastes, and they eat a lot of fish, obviously, so their taste buds are sometimes accustomed to flavors that people in the United States in particular probably wouldn't be accustomed to, and so there is a chance that you will bite into something expecting something completely different, or just getting a flavor that you can't identify or just don't like. We have a game on Steam called Stickman.io, so it's trying to be like Agro.io or itch.io, but it's on Steam, and it's a Stickman game, and I haven't had to bring up my policy against not recommending Stickman games for a while. Inherently, if you're making a Stickman game, you're probably, with a few exceptions, you're probably making a very low effort game. This one is 40% off for $2.39, and no reviews in my language. One negative review that just has a bunch of parts. Let's see. Low effort, very low effort game, so what we've seen a lot of. Next we have a game called Paper Dolls. Apparently Paper Dolls is a first-person VR horror game with oriental features, explore an ancient ruins in the late Qing Dynasty, and search for your daughter. Complete story goes through the whole game, which lasts approximately 15 hours. A century-old hidden truth awaits you in your discovery. So a 15-hour VR game almost certainly has to have hard breakpoints at some place. It says it's an indie action adventure survival horror VR game, and let's just
report for justice.
the thing that's going on here, though, is this trailer. I will say the graphics don't look great, and I question, like, that's not the right thing to say here. The graphics do look good, rather good, but they don't look like AAA hyper-realistic graphics. They look like just ever so slightly a step down. If you were watching really good graphics, but then you had it at like a sub 720p resolution. And so I kind of wonder, when you have that, what does that look like or feel like in VR when you can get something really close to your hands? Speaking of, or your eyes. Speaking of hands, I was looking at a picture of hands. The hands from the controller are actual human skin tone hands with just kind of, which are just kind of cut off at the past the wrist. They're not bleedingly cut off. They're just kind of fuzzy and blurred, which adds a level of reality. But then also kind of loses that reality. I think they should probably add arms to it and just have arms connect to your body at some point. It says 29 Steam achievements. It's 12% off for $26.34. So they really going for a 15-hour experience at half the $60 price. I think you'll definitely see people cover this game. There's 3 positive reviews right now, all in Japanese, it seems, which or Chinese, which I assume that means something. It has to actually be Chinese because it is only in simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese. So, but I also have to applaud this game for being a Chinese game that isn't a cheap Chinese effort, or at the very least, in its presentation, it's not a cheap Chinese effort. It seems like it's a real game, and if I had a VR system, I would recommend this, and so I'd recommend it to people with VR for now. In fact, I think I'll even wishlist this, and maybe that's what my follow list will start becoming, is follow VR games, and if the VR games turn out to be if I ever get a VR system, and they're still good by the time I get that system, then I'll play that. Borderlands retweeted somebody who drew a different art style of all the main female characters in Borderlands, which was great and all. It's certainly such a different art style. It kind of feels like looking at one of those Cartoon Network reboots of a series with a completely different animation style. I could totally see these characters in a Cartoon Network series being silly. Not really much to talk about that. Let's see. Let's do this.
The light dims, but we fight.
And then here, and here. PC Gamer has an article. The hellish horror game Agony will be slightly toned down, and the uncensored patch plan has been dropped. So, Censored Gaming did an article sort of related to this, but it was more about why there are basically no adults-only games. M for mature is ages 17 plus. Adults only is simply 18 plus. So it's a insignificant number, really. Like, I don't think you get too many parents out there that says, well, my 18-year-old can do this, but my 17-year-old can't. with maybe the exception of the fact that they tell an 18-year-old you can't drink alcohol or move out of the house or do something that they don't want them to do anyways at early ages or maybe ever. You might, as a parent, go, well, you're 17, you have to wait till you're 18, but you're hoping, you're crossing your fingers that by the time they're 18, they're more mature and won't want to do that thing. But in reality, if a kid was 17 years old and he saw the content from an 18-year-old labeled content, you really wouldn't care. Let's face it, most parents wouldn't be too upset if a kid accidentally walked in the room, even at 14 or 15, saw a side boob and then was quickly shuffled out of there. You'd just be like, oops, we didn't intend for that to happen. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't severely traumatize your average 14-year-old. These guidelines have always been guidelines for parents, and parents know their kids best. There certainly probably are some very immature 18-year-olds that shouldn't be playing adult-only game. But anyways, that was what Censored Gaming's video was about, is just why there are no adults-only games anywhere. And then the basic is Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony have all said there will never be any adults-only games, in so many words. I think, frankly, some of them wiggled around it and said that they personally don't publish those games, but if another publisher wanted to do that, they might be willing to do it, was slightly the implication. But no publisher that's a big publisher wants to do it either, because the adults only label is so offensive. It's literally just a label there to be a replacement for the X or XXX rating. It's something that if you get that, you're never going to be seen anywhere. And the same is true for movie theaters. Movie theaters will not air, any chain movie theater will not air a movie that is NC-17. So, all this time, Agony has been pushing itself and promoting itself as it's going to be hyper violent, major amounts of nudity, major amounts of blood, major amounts of demons and magic and all of those things. And that's what it's been getting its advertisement on, and it's been way too much advertisement, frankly. Let's play Druid class cards now. They've been building a hype train on the fact that this is not going to hold back any punches. And apparently, in an initial pass to be rated by the ESRB, which, I mean, I'm not even sure, there's an inherent dishonesty here with the developers of Agony. They should have never even bothered to get an ESRB rating. They should have known and never even bothered to say that this game was not going to come out on consoles. They should have been a PC-only game that was pushing its luck, I would say, to be even on Steam. And so there's this diverging paths here. They from the beginning wanted to make money with this. They from the beginning was saying this was kind of a Bioshock-esque gameplay with shock values, and this has worked in the past when you have games like Dante's Inferno and Condemned was another one. I would say there was several games in the past that have gone the shock value. God of War was built around a lot of shock value, but I think in the current climate, they probably misjudged how much the ESRB was going to be a little bit more conservative these days. And so ESRB told them you're going to get adults only, and so you have to cut back and tone down stuff. And I'm not sure what they can really even tone down to even get it to an M for mature. Was it the latest trailer where we saw the main bad girl, the goddess of the land, just giving birth to babies and throwing them away to get eaten? Probably. That would probably be one of the red flags, but if it starts going into a general atmosphere and there's just too much blood and there's just too much demons, and I have, in almost every instance I've talked about Agony, said there is just a ridiculousness in its artistic design, that one of the main enemies in the game is this demon that does not look human at all in the face or the legs or the arms, but it has 100% human flesh breasts. It's a gratuitousness just outside of
This jungle hides many secrets.
trying to really tell a legitimate story. There's also, I think, some crucifixions and crosses that we see, so that may have been a problem too. Let's see. It seems like this isn't even the ESRB that's giving them trouble, which is not surprising actually, because the ESRB really doesn't care, and they probably would give an info rating. It's the PEGI, the Pan-European Game Information, that's giving them trouble. Which, when you think about it that way, then why don't they just well, I'm not going to make suggestions here. I'm going to just say you know that they're not willing to give up selling the game in sales in the European market, which is that. Reading this article more, it says the censorship now affects only several seconds from 2 endings out of 7, and some scenes may be unlocked only after and some scenes that may be unlocked only after the end of the game. None of the scenes you have seen in the trailers or other promotional materials have been censored at all, and the game will feature those on all platforms. And see, I figure I'm not sure I really believe them. Honestly, because I'm not sure I really trust or believe anything this developer is saying.
Try one.
I don't know if I really even have a reason why I'm coming off of this feeling, but it does feel like they lied in their commitment to their artistic vision. And this is inherently always the case with video game companies, and is that when you mix a product that is to be sold, particularly a product unlike a painting that has to be sold to the mainstream in many copies, artistic vision does go like it does. Let's see. Go in a different direction. Make me feel like they're more interested in making money than they were to staying true to an artistic vision, which I'm not sure they really ever had an artistic vision in the first place. This also feels very much like pandering. The article goes further. The studio has even posted a helpful list of features you can look forward to the game, and the features are gore, brutal sex scenes, lesbian and gay sex scenes, genital physics, eye gouging, heart plucking, children's heads exploding, setting fires to martyrs and demons, intense violence, strong language, and drugs. And so if it has drugs, then that seems like that is probably going to get banned in Australia too. And so we may very well have a second censor pass as soon as they start applying to sell the game in Australia. And they're claiming unspecified legal issues has caused them to drop plans to remove the censorship from the PC version of the game. Instead, it will publish a comparison video on May 3rd, so you will not miss out on anything. A statement that intentionally or not really highlights how much of the where much of the interest in Agony really lies. I think that's an unfair editorialization for PC Gamer to make, considering PC Gamer in particular has been hyping up the game 100% around the sex and nudity and violence. In fact, there's really nothing else in the game that is even interesting when you leave that alone. When you ignore that content. Let's see. Here's a quote. Please bear in mind that leaving the content uncensored would result in the game being banned and us, Mad Mind Studio, being sued. The message says, so apparently the publisher has them under a contract, is what they're claiming, that won't let them A, cancel the game, or B, not release the game, or C, release an uncensored patch. That would simply lead to the studio being closed. Obviously, we don't want this to happen, and we hope you understand. I half suspect that Agony doesn't ever come out. Like, but this is not the ESRB adults only. Anyways, it's Peggy. Peggy 18 plus, whatever the Peggy system is. So there's some misunderstanding of the situation, it seems, according to how PC Gamer is reporting it. Now, optional patches really could come from other people, certainly. If it really is just a couple of scenes that are being edited out and it's pre-rendered cutscenes that was the only thing they needed to change, then the optional patches kind of don't even seem like they would have needed to happen. It would have been easier to, from the word go, say, well, these are just cutscenes, so we'll just put an uncensored video up and then somebody else can replace those videos. Inherently, I guess Agony would probably be a game I couldn't play on Steam, on YouTube anyways. But also, I'm not sure I really wanted to play it. Like, this probably is going to be one of those games where a lot of people stream it on Twitch, a lot of people get in trouble for streaming it on Twitch, and then, or streaming it on YouTube, and that's kind of all of it is. And in the meanwhile, while this is news, there's been so much not news talked about Agony that we're in a weird position too, where I kind of don't want to report on it because it's already been overexposed, but I kind of need to report on it because this time it actually is important information. We've got a game on Steam called Disc Golf VR. It doesn't look great. Basically, asset flips in MS Paint. A disc golf game in VR is not a bad idea. And in fairness, Disc Golf VR is a free game, so if you have VR, I'd recommend trying it. The only thing it's going to cost you is a download. It says it's early access, but if this ever became even 50 cents, I wouldn't pay for it. They're probably is it, well, there's at least a decent chance that there already
This
is
jungle hides
a
many
better
secrets.
version of a disc golf game in VR. Let's see. We already talked about that article. Why was that page not closed? That was the exact same page. And my plugin is supposed to stop things like that from happening. So next game we have on Steam is called Prosperity. It says it's an early access simulation strategy indie casual game, and it looks certainly like it's a spreadsheet game. There's nothing here as far as graphics, with the exception of a background picture. It says it's early access, $9.99, and 2 suspicious positive reviews. Like, there's really nothing to even say about this game. It's the first game from this developer. It's way too priced. It's way too expensive.
My will is not my own.
Aluth Neladar.
It's just nothing interesting visually at all. Moving on, we have a game called Kingdom Watcher, early access indie sports strategy VR game. It, to me, looks like it might be a tower defense game. The graphics, yes it is. Graphics and VR, we've seen a lot worse. I'm seeing a dice, so there's something to that element too. And you use an archery element to shoot and make selections as far as adding more towers. But yeah, this is just a VR version of a tower defense game, which makes no sense. We'll do that. Now that one is fully powered up.
I have no choice.
Early access game, 15% off for $2.54. It is cartoony and pretty, but maybe those two are flipped assets, and it's a tower defense game in VR, which doesn't make sense. Seems like at some point there's a mode or something where you shoot other towers and archers on top of other towers. I don't think we're gonna have a ton of things to say today. I kind of knew that already, though. Let's see. Still free here.
I have no choice.
And the turn. Next game we have is called Tiny Rails.
Onward,
It's,
friends, to adventure.
I don't know. The graphics are kind of closer to a 16-bit graphics, like flat 2D things. It's some kind of simulation where you're running a train, and there's all kinds of different trains that you can run, and it kind of has a Stardew Valley, if you were in charge of running a train, appearance. But it also kind of feels like it's more of a clicker game, where you're just unlocking new trains. The pixel graphics is part of the problem. They sell that like it's a good thing, and it's totally not. Let's see if I did this. And then do this. Just go ahead and do this.
For the wild.
Kill this guy. Attack you. $9.99 for Tiny Rails. It's got some presentation. It's got a considerable amount of positive reviews, like 159 positive reviews and 29 negative reviews. That's one not recommended.
I appreciate your efforts.
First not recommended review says, as with most mobile ports on Steam, the devs have seemingly abandoned it despite its supposedly being early access. When the mobile version gets constantly updated but the PC hasn't seen an update in half a year, you know that it's just a pathetic money grab. So this is a cell phone port. I guess I could have seen that. It says it's not in early access anymore, but and that it, like, I don't even know why I saw this game then, because it says it came out a year ago.
Where shall I strike?
Play. And then 1 plus 1 plus 1. Okay. Well, it's kind of an unfair system I have, but there's so many games on Steam, you kind of have to have an unfair system. To have one negative review sway you away from a game, but it's right. Let's see. Tiny Rails Update 2.0. We're delighted to bring you such a large update today as we leave early access. We've heard your feedback and are excited to bring you duplicate cards. Highlights: explore new regions, Alaska and Oceania, play the new limited time event, Cargo Rush, major bug fixes, and optimizations. And then comments on this update thing says, some things have changed. For example, when you arrive at a station, new regions also there for me, but using the same card twice doesn't work. Glad to see this update. I would help to see the whole changelog. Wonders do happen. It's great to get an update after all this time, but how about some release notes to explain the new changes in more detail? For example, where can we see our players level and how do we level it up? Do we need to restart the game? My game crashes when I try to continue my game. Anyone else have that problem? Hopefully the extreme grinding also has, and then played 40 hours, but this game, but the end game is to buy 5 items here, 4 items there, to get a total of 150 items of one kind. I've stopped playing the game because of that. Hopefully it's also been fixed. Okay, so Tiny Rails apparently did update, and so the negative criticism isn't as valid, but it took him forever to update, and it is still just a mobile port. And I was close to getting this, but it does look like it's a really, really grindy game. And if you were going to play Tiny Rails, I'd say play it on PC. I mean cell phone, don't play it on PC. Next game we have is called Black Bart. Let's see, what did I just do? Let's see, it's an adventure indie casual game. I'm not sure what kind of game it is, though. It looks more like a point-and-click adventure.
Beetleberries, my favorite.
It's got a dice minigame. And a gold panning minigame. And the animation style is a heavily thick inked background animation style that you would expect from somebody who is painting with like watercolors or oils. It's not a great artistic style in my opinion. To do it right, you have to really understand angles and detail, because you're painting with a very wide brush, and when you paint with a very wide brush, or you're digitally painting with a very wide brush, in this case, any mistake gets over accentuated. Like, these people don't really have fingers, they don't really have hands in most of the pictures, because you just cannot do that level of detail. Black Bart is 10% off for $2.69, and I'm still not sure. Let's see. It says it's a text quest story that gradually unfolds with mini games, so it does kind of just feel like that. It has 6 positive and 0 negative reviews, but the first positive review is written in like Russian and English. Let's see, what languages is this? Yes, English, Russian, and Ukrainian.
What to do?
So it's an interesting question whether a Ukrainian developer would ever actually bother to translate their games into Russian, since Russia is attempting to take control of Ukraine. This is the only game from this developer so we have a questionable interface, a slightly interesting Western themed game is set in the American Civil War like time frame, because I'm seeing a picture of the wrong United States flag from the time period. So I don't know if this is some kind of fake news game or if it's just a really weird attempt to talk about something that's really not in your purview. If you're a Ukrainian developer or Russian developer or what.
Try one.
Like, I don't see anything inherently offensive about this game, I just don't also see anything interesting about it, so I'm gonna ignore Black Bart and close that. Maybe it's important to say Black Bart looked like a character with white skin. That might be relevant, considering it was set in that time frame. Civil War time frame. Let's see. We got somebody that wants to 1v1 maybe in a second. Let's not mind playing people. It's been quite a while, frankly, since somebody's wanted to play me on Hearthstone. It was definitely a factor that makes me wonder if people are dying or losing interest in Hearthstone. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Action RPG The King of Fighters All-Stars has been announced for smartphones. I don't know like how you're gonna have great experience playing a fighting game on cell phones, but I guess it's not a fighting game. It's called The King of Fighting All-Stars, and it's an action RPG. And I could see playing an action RPG, I guess. Let's continuously draw cards.
Give that minion a turn to get ready.
And I just looked at that entire trailer and it doesn't actually show actual gameplay. That's one of those trailers. It's a mobile action RPG with easy to use controls that enables flashy skill actions and exciting combo actions of the King of Fighters series. I will be very interested to see if this game, when this game comes out on June 15th, I assume only in Japan, what it actually looks like, because it certainly seems like you are promoting and selling something on a platform that cannot support what you're promoting or selling. Like, I just don't see how that is going to be a fast experience. Just go ahead and kill this. Next game we have on Steam is called Rise of the Crustaceans. I believe this was one of the bad games that Screen 7 was pointing out that coming out today. It actually did come out. I think inherently that is another issue, is that people see games like the active shooter game scheduled to come out, and then they freak out before they wait to see if they ever actually get released, because I don't think Steam looks at games until their actual release date. Or very possibly there's some behind the scenes stuff going on where they look at games as they're submitted. They say, as long as this doesn't actually get released, we won't look at it. Or they say, we'll look at the game once you give us the file, and the file is uploaded, say, the night before the release date a lot of times. Just to make sure there's no bait and switch happening. I could be very surprised with that. Rise of the Crustaceans is a ugly looking, looks like an asset flip top-down shooter. Doesn't seem like there's anything inherently offensive about it. Let's see. Unless there's something in the audio, I suppose there's always a possibility. It's early access, $3.99, and there's just nothing too bad about it for it to really have been one of the games that Screen 7 was pointing out. It's also from a developer who's self-publishing and has not done anything else, so unlike some of the other developers who have flooded Steam with terrible games, Rise of Crustaceans should be left alone, because frankly just people don't want to see it. You elevated it and platformed it, and I'm certainly not a fan of the idea of deplatforming people, but you talked about a bad game, or Screen 7 did, that honestly nobody would have ever seen otherwise.
For the wild.
Let's get rid of as many of these as we can. Next game we have on Steam is called Project Maze. It's a asset flip of running around the 3D world with a maze that actually doesn't look that bad. Like, there is somebody in the maze who's trying to shoot you, or several people trying to shoot you, but you don't have a gun in your hand, so you are just running through the maze trying to figure it out in a 3D environment, which doing a maze in a 3D environment is certainly certainly a different experience. I think I need to play more of the big ticket cards to get my daily quest done. There are some different skins for this maze area, so maybe some different levels. 25% off for $3.74. Apparently this was a Steam Greenlight game, and that says something too if you've been working on your game as a Steam Greenlight game for so long. Let's see. The negative review, one negative review says, too long, didn't read, game looks very bland, everything is the same, the mazes are very big, I couldn't find the exit once in my time playing. You can't actually build a maze, just a random seed playing against the enemies is quite irritating, as I don't even know what their objective is in this. Also, they shoot through walls. After all, it's just not fun. What you really, what you can really see on my time playing. Not recommended yet. Will change my review if the game changes as well. I don't see a reason why you need to change your review. Like, you're reviewing everything. Every reviewer reviews the game as they see it. That being said, I'm not going to recommend Project Maze, but it's nowhere as bad as some of the other games I've seen. And it's...
I appreciate your efforts.
Let's see.
Time waits for no one.
Just keep playing. Like, again, a bad game, certainly, but not a game deserving scorn. Next game we have on Steam is called Bunker Punks, which I think this game was already covered. At least they're claiming that it was covered on the trailer by Jim Sterling and several other people. So it's a very 8-bit Doom-esque world where you're running around and shooting and you're trying to get bullets and collectibles. If I don't think I'm right here, but I felt like there was some games, this game had some element to it where you had a limited number of bullets. Alright, so this guy is doing battle in play mode, and I would have to wait for them to return to the main menu. And I can't spectate them either. So it's not really realistic for me to sit here and wait for this. Bunker Punks actually doesn't catch my attention because of its visual style for what it is, a fast-paced looking Doom game. It's 15% off for $12.74. Reviews, it has 173 review positive and 20 negative. So let's see. It's kind of a first-person shooter and a roguelike, but then not recommended. Says it has boring weapon selection, levels all look the same, uninteresting enemy sprites, setting and story and background, or just background filter, ads displayed on the walls to hammer how evil the corporation are. The base game is just spending cash on the room to upgrade stats in a linear fashion. Starting the game with grinding is not a good idea. Most of the game is content is locked at the beginning and the enemies won't drop anything new on your first playthrough. So yeah, I remember people talking about this, but this hardly was a game that people were shouting the praises of, and it's really strange that it's taken them this long to release it out of early access. The rating, if you just go on the main rating, it says it's very positive. 87% of the reviews are positive. I think with their trailer saying thumbs up Jim Sterling is probably not a great review. Nowadays, half the people don't like Jim Sterling. Which, by the way, Jim Sterling did do a video about the active shooter game that allegedly is coming out on Steam. I bet it doesn't ever happen. Let's see. So, here we are. I'm going to close Bunker Punks. I have no interest in playing it. If somebody wants me to play a game like that, I would certainly, but it doesn't catch my attention. And I'm gonna end this recording here. If in between the 30 seconds it takes me to end this recording and me starting the next recording, this player becomes free, I'll try to give him a 1 versus 1 gameplay. Otherwise, we're just going to play some more minions that are expensive and be done with the European account and then move over to the American account, which I don't even need to get all 3 of the daily quests done. We'll be back on Wednesday, almost certainly. So yeah, we're planning to be back on Wednesday. So that wouldn't really matter. Anyways, that's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. When you subscribe, click the notification bell. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, gift me a game on Steam, or gift me a gift card on Steam. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, May 28th, Memorial Day in the United States. We have somebody that wanted to play me, but he's not free right now, so we'll just have to move forward. I only need to play 2 more minions that cost 5 or more. This is the 3rd recording for today, and it's gonna be... I would be rather stupid to say it's gonna be shorter than average, but I don't think it's gonna be longer than the 45 minutes that I schedule for each recording. We don't have a ton of games. I'm gonna try to even go through the games a little bit faster so that like Friday's stream, I said I want to have 10 minutes just so I can scroll through my Twitter feed just to make sure there's not any new content or news that came out. But I think if I move fast, because I need to move fast all the time through these games, I'm learning that. Maybe I'm not actually doing it, but I'm learning that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So we have a game on Steam called Tainted Fate. It is an early access action adventure indie gore, as far as the tags. It says plays as a demon unwillingly summoned from the depths of hell into our world. Use your demonic abilities to gruesomely take down everything between you and your path back to the underworld. Be the horror. Okay, let's watch this trailer. So it's an kind of odd, odd way to describe a situation that a demon would be summoned from hell and want to go back to hell. That's not the hell that most people imagine. The thought would be that even the demons don't want to be there. See, and the thing here about this game is I cannot just call this an asset flip. Somebody spent some effort here. At least I'm seeing 4 or 5 different areas, 4 or 5 different enemies that you can grab and tear apart from limb to limb. It's something. The graphics seem like they might be a little inconsistent, and they probably aren't all made by the developer, but this isn't a low effort. Somebody really had some passion. I just need to play this guy and one other guy over 5 mana. There's screenshots of just areas that probably are fight levels. It doesn't seem like this is a full-on story. And it's a VR game. And that explains a lot of why it's so focused on the tearing things from limb to limb. It is because you are actually playing as the demon who is actually tearing things from limb to limb. Probably should have killed that guy. So it's 10% off for $13.49. I think you kind of know what you're getting here. You're paying a major premium to be able to play in VR and rip things limb to limb. There's 4 positive reviews and 1 negative that says extremely not fun, but somehow that got labeled as not in English. I don't understand how Steam's language filter works. It seems like it filters out anything that is even slightly short as not being in a language. Tainted Fate. I see where it's going. Like, I see what they're doing. It's a VR game where you get to play as a demon and rip people from limb to limb. Interesting, small, short experiences, which is what most VR games are, and unfortunately it's just charging too much,
My will
as
is not
often
my
is the
own.
case. Next game we have is a game called Broken Minds. It says it's a psychological murder mystery set in 90s Japan. Adventure indie. Let's see. Is this an old looking game? Or is this... This came out originally in 1992, so sometimes games are old games that just now are released on Steam. And I think that's the case here. Now, I don't know if this is a Western game set in Japan or a Japanese game with just a extremely different animation style. It's only in English, so I guess I have to assume it's a Western game just set in Japan. 90s Japan for some reason. Maybe that plays a part in the story.
A stranger will offer you aid.
Job done.
So yeah, it's English only. Murder mystery visual novel set in 90s Japan with a non-anime style. The art style is very much in line with Daft Punk's art style. This originally came out in 1992. I'm half wondering if the animator who did who animates Daft Punk is not the person who made this game. And see, this is from a developer called Locked On that has nothing else to sell. It's 10% off for $6.29, and it succeeded. This is an old game that's got my attention, and because of that, because of its uniqueness, I'm gonna put Broken Minds on my wish list. Can I directly say that I would recommend this game? No. Being a murder mystery visual novel, I think there's probably an issue there already, but jeez, how far back was I? I am really far back. I need to hurry up. Next game we have is called Dwarf Defense, early access strategy action game. It's a real-time tower defense game. In fairness, it looks pretty good. It looks like Diablo from a top-down perspective, angled, but yeah, I just don't want a tower defense game. And see, that's the thing, is that Dungeon Keeper, I guess, effectively is a tower defense game with a dungeon crafting game built on top of it. And I really did like Dungeon Keeper. This guy, unfortunately. Apologies to this person because his 1v1 request is now going to be ignored and I'm moving on. I guess maybe I should have responded, and he would have made more of an effort, but frankly that's just going to slow down the flow of this recording, so I need to move on. So what can sell this game to me? It's early access, 30%, $3.49. So if there were reviews, maybe that would catch my attention, but there isn't. Dwarf Defense looks good. Its thumbnail doesn't look good. It's pretty bad. So let's start by re-rolling this. 10 demons, battle cry cards, and 3 monster hunt battle things. We can do this. We can do this just fine. Where are we with a warlock? Apparently we have no warlock. So we'll take this. Might as well play ranked. The developer of Dwarf Defense hasn't got any other games, so they've got no credibility. So I'm just gonna have to close that one. Another hidden gem that could be overlooked. Next game we have is a game called Trainiac. Shoot your way through enemies as you jump from train to train in a unique action game. The difficulty increases as you progress. Watch your back as you might encounter drive-by shootings. How far will you get? This is an asset flip, certainly. The graphics very bland and generic, no details, low polygon type element. The menus and health bars and stuff are extremely low detailed and generic. But for an asset flip game, I will say at least they have an original idea. It's 15% off for $2.54. But I certainly wouldn't recommend it. There's 2 positive reviews, but still, this feels like something you would play if you were a streamer and a big time streamer, and it would get you some attention, and that would be about it. And it's starting to be really questionable whether even the big time streamers can get away with playing crazy games. More and more that they are just playing the AAA titles and the games they actually want to play. Let's see. Let's play this. Get it out! Get it out! Do this. Discard that. Draw and move to hard. Play. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't recommend anybody play Trainiac. Moving on. Gamasutra has an article, Get a Job. PlayQ is looking for a UI UX designer that would be in Santa Monica, California. I think a lot of these jobs at this point are getting repeated because they're still looking. One would assume that's the reason.
I have big plans.
Deal 1 damage if it kills it, draw a card. We'll do that. I'll dry. PC Gamer has an article, The Hidden Tricks Bringing Games Worlds to Life. Let's quickly go through this article and see if there's anything interesting. Here's a quote. One of the most cutting-edge rendered solutions in games hides in the code of a 2D platformer. And then it continues in the quote because it doesn't have quotation marks at the end. think that's just what PC Gamer does. Yeah, so this is a whole article, but it doesn't have any chapter points or title points. So I feel like I'd have to read it, and I'm not sure I want to waste the time to read it. I've got actually quite a bit of work to do. I guess it's taken a while for me to get to this point, but TechRaptor and everybody else has an article talking about how the Atari co-founder Ted Dabney died at age 80. Ted Dabney was the co-founder of Atari, and then its predecessor SYZYGY. He died at age 80. Ted Dabney was diagnosed with esophageal cancer in 2017 and given 8 months to live. Dabney was born in 1937. He co-founded Syzynergy Energy Engineering with Nolan Bushnell in the early 1970s. And after the pair developed Computer Space, a coin-opted title closely modeled on Space War as the first commercially available coin-op title. Did not know that. Let's keep playing these Battlecry cards. Syzygy became Atari shortly afterward, and the company went to produce classics of arcade eras such as Pong, Asteroids, Breakout, and more, many of which were phenomenally successful at Atari. Some of the internals used to create Pong was based on Dabney's video circuit created for Computer Space, which means Dabney was instrumental in creating what is arguably the company's best known and most successful game. Ted Dabney would go on to depart Atari shortly after a supposed acrimonious split with long-term business partner Bushnell, whose presence in the gaming industry was greatly diminished after his Atari departure, and his role in creating Pong, as well as many other Atari games, would be somewhat shrouded in mystery until the late 20s. Dabney appeared on a retro gaming podcast, Retro Gaming Roundup in 2010. Shortly after his Edge magazine interview, and told his side of the story there. These two media let's keep playing. Let's not forget to actually play Hearthstone. These two media appearances were the first time many had heard from him in decades. After this, Dabney would give sporadic interviews elsewhere, but his input into the gaming industry was largely focused on Atari in the 1970s with a healthy dose of Chuck E. Cheese, both the restaurant and some of the computer games there. That's because he went on to start Chuck E. Cheese, the restaurant, and let's see, both restaurants. And then at the bottom of this TechRaptor article it says, do you want to leave a tribute for Ted Dabney? Have a personal story regarding him? Let us know in the comments below. And see, that feels like that is comment bait, but at least it's somewhat valuable. Do I see any comments here though? No, not really. So there's certainly a lot of issue with credit to people who worked in Atari specifically, because there weren't credits in the Atari games, and they were kind of keeping it all to themselves and not crediting any of the creators. There's also a heavy number of female people that worked at Atari and made it a very successful company that some articles have gone and given credit retroactively to. Let's keep playing. So that's I would say a very nicely written eulogy. The man is 80, so there was enough there to get entire paragraph or two talking about their time, their life. In comparison to like the eulogy of Total Biscuit, a lot of articles I saw didn't have anything to say about him or anything really detailed. And the one thing you want is the ability to know what this person did in their life. Just keep on playing. Speaking of the death of John Bain, Total Biscuit, it seems like former employee of EA went on a long 6 Twitter post rant and screed about against Total Biscuit an hour and a half after he died, just being super evil. It's not a word I use much, but just super malicious and angry and hateful an hour and a half after the guy died. Like, and really you have to assume it's because the person is an extreme, I'm not calling them SJWs anymore, I'm calling them progressive extremists. You have to assume that, because that's really the number one thing that I know of Total Biscuit that irritated people. If it really was just that Total Biscuit reviewed one of the games he worked on poorly, and you're having such a negative and hateful response and feelings to them, and also it's fair to point out that you didn't say any of this while he was alive and could defend himself, so that's pretty cowardly on top of being mean and spiteful. The good news is EA, which is known as one of the worst companies rated by consumers for many years. The EA, the people who brought us microtransactions in Shadow of Mordor and Battlefront 2, even they have a line, and they seemingly fired the guy, and he shut down his Twitter and deleted the tweets, it seems. But like, I imagine other people said similar things in private, but at least those other people had the good sense to say something. Dancing on the grave of anybody is not great. Even when Osama bin Laden was killed, there was a lot of people who were dancing on his grave, but then there was also a lot of people who were just like, well, we're no longer at danger from this person, let's just move on, let's not celebrate it. And I would say all Americans at this point don't know the day he was killed. Like, we're not celebrating it as a holiday or anything. I would argue though that there probably would have been better if there was more evidence that he actually was killed. There's not a lot of conspiracy theories out there, but there wasn't an overwhelming preponderance of footage either. So, like, I totally 100% believe he was killed, but I could also see there's a documentary or show that's proposing the theory that Hitler actually didn't die at the end of World War II, and that he may have actually escaped. And there seems to be some evidence and some theories that is true. That people at least believe that to be true. So yeah, it would have been probably better if they had shown some really bloody footage to everybody, and that I could now look on YouTube.
Valid target.
I'm just playing all the cards I can. Moving on, Your Gamer has an article. Microsoft Stealth releases a PC racing game called Miami Street, and it's nothing like Forza. Let's see. Miami Street is a free-to-down racing game that presents a cinematic view of the racing with quick-time events for things like taking corners. It looks like this. Let's see. Is this a games for Windows only scenario? It seems like it's having you tap the left mouse button to give it gas before you even launch, and there is a basic amount of bars in the background to indicate how much you should be clicking. I kind of think you would have to stealth release a game like this. It's such a weird quick time events in racing. What a weird experiment. The game is the work of a Brighton-based developer, Electric Square, which is the sister studio of Studio Gobo. New content for For Honor and Disney Infinity, and since both of those games failed, it soft launches on the Microsoft Store this week, which means it's not available in all territories. Keep playing Battlecry cards and keep playing demons.
Get it out! Get it out!
Let's see. To accelerate, you hold down the left mouse button, spacebar anywhere on the touchscreen. To brake, you release. Car automatically steers through turns, but you have to time your brake and hit the gas in the perfect time to get ahead. There's a boost too.
Relax. It's a party.
Let's see. Keep on playing. The idea is that Miami Street can be played on any Windows 10 PC device, and clearly it's aimed at a broad audience. Miami Street is single player and with Xbox Live achievements and cloud saves. So this definitely feels like it's only going to be on the Windows 10 store though, and it's just an attempt to have an exclusive on that store, which is not helpful. Can we do this?
You face Jaraxxus, Eldar Lord of the Burning Legion!
Just one more.
Go do this. I can't recommend Miami Street, particularly if you're gonna go through the Windows 10 store. That's a waste of time. It doesn't look like it's much of a game. It seems like it's a failed attempt at an experiment. Moving on, we have a game called Adventure in Kana Village, which is tagged as an RPG Maker game, and I think I've made my feeling on RPG Maker games very clear, so there's nothing here that interests me. It's 10% off for $6.29, and since it's an RPG Maker game, that's all I need to say. let's close that tab. Sort of big announcement. I guess it depends on how you feel. How you feel in general about the niche cult hit Killer 7, because it's coming to PC via Steam this fall. Which this is the one. Suda51, is that the guy that made Killer 7? Yeah, I think Suda51 made Killer 7. This is the one game that he had not brought into PC yet. And I guess now it is coming to PC. I believe it was a PlayStation 1 game originally, maybe a PlayStation 2, so the graphics were already weird, but now without some extra work, they're going to be also a little bit weirder. I've never actually played Killer 7, so this is this would be the perfect time for me to hop into it and play it. The other game that they don't have are the No More Heroes games on PC, so hopefully we'll see these come out. Let's see. This is the first time in 13 years that the game has come out. It was written and directed by Suda51 and has the directors of Hiroyuki Kobayashi and Shinji Mikami, which are all big names in video and Japanese development. I'm not sure how long Killer 7 actually is. It may turn into a only 5-hour game, but that is fine with me. Maybe I should close that tab though. I definitely don't want to close that one. I definitely do want to wishlist it. Right, where were we? Now I'm having to find what I'm supposed to be doing. Seems like he's toying with me. We've got a game called Larkin Building by Frank Lloyd Wright. It's a VR game where I imagine you're walking around the Larkin. No, it's not a VR game. Oh, well, this doesn't require VR. It seems like you're walking around the building and looking at it. It looks pretty good if you're interested in Frank Lloyd Wright or architecture in general. It's free to play, so you can't really complain about that. It says the Larkin Building is by Frank Lloyd Wright is one of the most famous office buildings of all time. It has been demolished in 1954 and there are no color pictures of the building till now. In a VR experience you can walk around. Although it seems like it doesn't require VR, so it's from a developer who hasn't developed anything else, which seems a little weird. Like, they're showing a bunch of black and white pictures of the building, so they tried their best, I imagine. It seems like they did an accurate recreation in VR. But this definitely feels like a passion project. Next game we have on Steam is called Ghost Killer. It says it's a party-based RPG. And it's from a developer who's made a bunch of games that are all rated positively somehow when they all look like they are fake games. So there's either a decent number of people that they have on their payroll, 19 user reviews are positive on this game, or there's some kind of decent gameplay mechanic here that I'm not seeing that makes this make sense. It seems like they're just ghosts on the screen, and then there's a wave that goes up and down, and you're clicking buttons trying to
How shall I
hit
destroy
certain enemies, or maybe you're waving the mouse around. I don't think so. Well,
unleash me?
this actually does kind of look like a game, it just doesn't interest me. And frankly, I don't trust the developer. It's 40% off for $1.79. But I think there's some review manipulation going on here. 20 positive, 0 negative ones. Let's see how many achievements are on here. 500 Steam achievements, I see. So Ghost Killer isn't a Steam achievement game, and that's why so many people are happy with it, is because people know what they're getting when they're getting into it. And now we need to play a bunch of Battlecry characters, which I believe we do have. This mage deck, I think, has a decent number of Battlecries. Next game we have on Steam is called The Road Trip. It's mostly negative. 20% of 10 user reviews are positive. And let's see, are you ready for the journey of a lifetime? Have you ever wanted a sandwich so badly you'd stop at nothing? Road Trip. This is kind of just you're in a car, you're driving around. We've seen a few better versions of this, but this one has some crazy asset flip silliness to it. Let's see if I can get some more detailed. It's 10% off for $4.49. Let's get a detailed review, negative review. Let's see. Looking for Battlecries. And we'll take those two. Should have gotten rid of that. First negative review is quit clicking on things if I could.
Injured?
The problem with this game is its incredible amount of bugs and basic missing features. There's no load and save, there's no control. Binding configure your car will get stuck. Then you have to quit and restart the game multiple times to finish it because there's no load and save. And then it says, nope, the problem with this game is that for a game that is entirely about interesting art style and humorous story, you will just rush through both without really getting to enjoy them. The interactions only last a few seconds each. The rest of the time you're just staring at the road trying not to get your car stuck. Because there's no load and save, you flip it, you'll have to restart the entire chapter over. It's also extremely repetitive. The same story plays out in almost all of the chapters. Even entire scenes are reused for core plot points. Basically, you need to answer a bunch of questions in order to not get killed while trying to keep your eyes on the dark road as you drive at night. This is basically the entire game. Let's play this. So it doesn't look good. It looks like a mess of a game. It sounds like it's a mess of a game. People, I think, were actually talking about this. The mainstream gaming media was talking about the Road Trip for some reason. I don't know why. And there's nothing there. Here's a slightly weird one. We have a game called X-Ray Hospital that is a graphic novel, it looks like, tagged with sexual content and nudity, adventure, indie, and casual. And it says, recently Janet had to go to the hospital for a spinal injection where she is examined by a beautiful and sexy Dr. Julia. And this feels a little weird. like, this doesn't feel like a Japanese creator created this, but the animation style certainly is trying to ape Japanese animation. It seems weird because it seems like there's only 2 characters, and like this is going to be an extremely short game. It's English and simplified Chinese, so you know directly that it's not actually a Japanese creator. It may be a cheap Chinese knockoff. That would certainly explain why the art style is as good as it is. It's $1.99 with no discount, but there's some bundles selling other things. It seems like there's no review. It seems like this, unlike most visual novels or dating sims or anything like that, it seems like it would only be at most an hour long. It's from a developer who's made several other games, but the only one that's ever even gotten reviewed is reviewed very negatively. Mostly negative, 31% of 22 users. And when I first saw this, I thought, well, maybe the nudity was going to come from you're going to play as a character running the x-rays, but then I guess you wouldn't be really seeing nudity in the x-ray machine, would you? You would be seeing just, well, you would just be seeing bones. It's a shame. I'd like to see a real Japanese developer try to touch this in a good way. Touch that same kind of story, although I don't know if there really is a story there. It's just kind of a premise. The one thing that makes it stand out is the lack of variety. It's like you only see the main character. Assuming the doctor isn't the main character, main character Janet is only shown at the very last screenshot. So a cheap Chinese knockoff of a visual novel. Yet that certainly wasn't a company that got a letter, or at least they didn't come out and say they got a letter as far as any of the news reporting say. So now I can add 3 random mage spells to my hand. Here's a different article about Killer 7. It came out on the PS2 and GameCube in 2005. So, some actual facts. PC Gamer has an article. The PUBG developer admits it's fallen short on performance improvements. Certainly has, and I think it's too little too late now. I don't think we're gonna see any more PUBG games or hype for it. Next game we have is an English only game, visual novel anime simulation called The Sibling Experiment, an indie visual novel with family themes. Now, here's the thing about family themes, is this a bunch of anime looking girls and maybe one boy, or maybe 2 boys. There's one boy. Are they going to fall in love with each other, or is this real, like, actual normal family relationship stuff?
I wonder.
Frankly, they all look like they're at about the age where they would not probably want to hang out with each other too much anyways. So you kind of have to take that
Time runs out on me.
for what it's worth. So, play this.
Don't mess with me!
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the visual novel that implies that there's any romance going on. It's just people talking and facing the first screen. It says it's family, all ages. That is it. Okay, but here's the deal. the
I must consider.
the achievements give away that this is a fraudulent presentation to try to sneak in some incest storylines, because there's an achievement that's called Brotherly Love, there's an achievement that says Something More, there's one called D&D Queen, then there's another one called Brotherly Love, so they have two achievements by the same name. There's an Unliking Pair, Skatings Forever, and in Skaters Forever there's one, I think, sister kissing the other sister. So yes, this is an incest game. That's what this is.
I'm warning you. I'm unstable.
I'm not going to inherently condemn a game for being an incest game, but I will condemn it for saying it's E for everyone, and it says it has an 82,000 word script. Let's see, 5 positive reviews. Yeah, it says it has 3 romance options to pursue. Keep in mind that you can't romance your own brother, so if you're looking for some incest, you'll be disappointed. Oh, I guess not. Maybe it's some kind of weird trade-off where a brother is getting his sister a date with some other siblings, so it's kind of like a trade-off. Like, hey, you're my best friend, you date my sister, I'll date your sister type thing. The only other game, Sibling Experiment is free to play, by the way. The only other game is called Paranormal Teens. In comparison, the art style seems like it's improved a little bit since that game was been released. The art style now almost looks like it's an actual Japanese animator doing it, but there's still a slight lack of quality in art style and understanding. The publisher has published a handful of games, and one is positive, one is neutral, and one is negative.
Time is now.
But I'm wasting too much time on the Sibling Experiment. It's free to play. If you want to check it out, check it out. Next game we have on Steam is called The Mysterious Ship. It's in English. I thought for a second maybe it wouldn't be because the developer is either Chinese or Japanese name. It's the only game from this developer. It's $1.99. It's an action indie casual simulation with gore according to the tags, but I didn't think that's what this was. I thought this was more of a point and click, find the few items game. Yeah, I would call it more of a murder mystery horror click around game. Maybe not so much a point and click, or it is really a point and click, but you just don't have a main character on screen like you would in most point and clicks. There needs to be a better phrase for this. It's rated teen, it's $1.99. I'm a sucker for point and click games, even ones that are more closer to the mobile style point and click games, and so I'm gonna keep The Mysterious Ship on my wish list. Here's a question. We still need to play a lot of Battlecry cards, and do I want to delete something to make a Battlecry deck? Like, if I was to get rid of this Shaman deck, I think I need to, because I don't feel like I'm just gonna get rid of this Shaman deck, and then I'm going to type in Battlecry, or let's see if we can just type in the word cry and hit enter. Hunter, maybe? let's try to make a hunter deck. Hunter, this, battle cry, 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 battle cry. I probably need cheaper battle cry cards. Let's get rid of everything that's pretty expensive and fill it with more of these. There we go. We'll call this one Cry. Enter. Done. 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 Come over here and play some Battle Cry cards. Might as well play ranked. We've already talked about Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. It's out now. People love it. It's the spiritual successor of Castlevania. It's the 8-bit style version of the game. It has an interesting mechanic in which after you beat a boss you unlock characters. Characters have different abilities that let you cross through different paths. There's a giant bomb quick click that I watched on it. It's caught my attention as somebody who hasn't even played Castlevania. It's $10. It's $9.99. And there's really nothing bad I can say about it, other than we expect that the other Bloodstained, the 3D, 3.5D platformer, the bigger Bloodstained game, will come out and be great. The developer is the same developer that made Galgun Double Ps and Galgun VR and a lot of DLC, but honestly everything that they've created is also highly recommended, so you can't complain if it's in good company. Let's see, we already talked about the Atari co-founder dying. Let's see. There's a game called Paradox of the Cryptomancers. It looks like a simulation VR 3D environment puzzle game. It seems like it's a kind of an indie thing. 40% off for $2.99. Apparently there's a 0.5 Bitcoin prize pool. First to solve each of the 20 puzzles earn a share of a 0.5 prize pool, in addition to other crypto rewards. That seems like something that should not be allowed at all. Let's see. There's 2 positive reviews and no negative reviews, ignoring the Bitcoin thing because I don't trust that at all. This has an all-time play peak of 42 players. Nobody's saying it's awful. It's from a developer who hasn't made anything else, but the price is right at $2.99 right now, so I'm gonna tentatively recommend it. Sure, a lot of this game is probably pre-bought assets, but they seem to be placed in logical, smart ways. They're not just randomly in an area.
What a boss.
So, Paradox of the Cryptomancers is there. It's weird to sell a game on cryptocurrency and have a game that actually looks like it might be decent. It's also going to be weird if I put that on my wish list and then come back a year later and see the inevitable comments that nobody ever found all the solutions, it's impossible, nobody got paid after they did find the solutions, and this was all just a scam. Half a Bitcoin, what is a Bitcoin going for now? This is like $500? So you're talking potentially $100 prize if you're splitting it between 20 people.
You love my new recipe.
Sever my wrath!
And we have a game called Knife Flipping on Steam that is what it sounds like. Seems like it's a knife flipping game. It doesn't look terrible. It kind of looks like a mobile game. There's an all-time peak of 2. It's 40% off for 59 cents. The thing about something like this is certainly it's going to it would be better if it was a mini game, not a entire game built around a single concept. The first review I see is not recommended. It says, "What the heck is this? The worst game ever played. Why did you have in mind while making the game? Did you think no one could ever make much higher so they couldn't get that coins?
I wonder.
Stop it, get some help, and then do it again. Just do it." I don't even know what that review was at the end of the day. Then that review really devolved into nonsensical rant.
Push me.
Yeah, it doesn't look especially interesting, so I'm gonna close Knife Flipper. We have a game called Manaya, M-A-N-A-Y-A. A simple bullet hell action game. Let's see how it looks. The thing I would say about this is it's a one-screen game that has a small thought of an idea for doing kind of a Mayan style bullet hell game, but it's like a one-screen game. It's $2.54 with it being 15% off, and it's just not good. Just not visually appealing. Has 3 positive reviews and 0 negative reviews. And my timer just went off, and we still have a couple of games to talk about. We have a game called Ouroboros, which is a sexual content nudity action adventure RPG that looks like an RPG Maker game. So even if it did have sexual content nudity, you're literally talking probably of spending 60 plus hours to see 5 pictures. That's the ultimate joke about Honey Pop, is that if you spend all the time playing Honey Pop, I spent about 60 hours on that game to see maybe 18 pictures that are censored by default on Steam. The reviews from this developer are all positive for the 3 games they've made, but I don't see anything here that interests me. Mostly it's because it's RPG Maker games, and I think you pretty much have to be in a subclass of video game players if you're liking the pixel 8-bit top-down graphics of RPGs and the grinding of RPGs. So moving on, next game we have is called Ethereum. It's early access indie action adventure. It says you navigate through an ancient course spanning the floating land of Ethereum. Use your wit and skill to traverse lava-filled caverns, vibrant jungles, and frigid tundra and sand-swept deserts. It looks like an infinite runner with maybe some other elements like sliding and and jumping and opening portals, swinging the portals. But the crazy part about this is a VR game, early access VR game, $4.99. So motion sickness simulator, almost certainly. Like, I do not believe you could have any kind of good experience there. Let's see, so go ahead and not recommend that. And we're at the Humble Bundle, and there's no new bundle still, so the Cosplay 2.0 bundle is the only thing. It's got like one more day to it, and that's a book bundle, and that's the one thing that has caught my attention.
I wonder.
Let's see. Another thing to point out is that over the course of a week, I'm releasing so many videos that this auto exporter for my videos on YouTube to Twitch is not really catching up. It's slightly below 4,000 videos still, and it's been, feels like at least a week now where it's been trying. The main reason, of course, is because Twitch itself is limiting it. I think the auto exporter would be done by now, and just uploading the 5 videos that happen every day or every weekday or so, but because it's getting limited, it's not really catching up, or it's doing it rather slowly, so it may be several months. I suppose if I can figure out how to make a calendar or an email list, I don't think I could probably get away with making an email list. I don't think people would be interested in it anyways. But a calendar might work. If I find that and make that, and that's a new link I need to add to my channel, I am going to try to remake that link. Certainly for all my existing videos. And so I'll try and do a search and replace and update the social links. I tried to do that as much as possible, always. Alright, so now I'm on Twitter, and once this game is done, I'll be done with the daily quests, I'm pretty sure. It's 2 weeks till E3, according to Jeff Keighley. And so, I want to announce it now, live, so I don't sound like just a lunatic when I claim this. But I suspect the announcements for the E3, which will mostly be for games that are planned to be released in 2019. 2019, I believe, is going to be the year of the vampire, in the similar way that 2018 was supposed to be the year of the pirate. Didn't really work out for the year of the pirate with Sea of Thieves or the other game that got delayed, but that is my prediction. I think we're going to see a considerable number of games coming out in 2019, and this is an informed guess, certainly, because there already have been games announced that are vampire based, but I think we're going to see a lot more. It would be unfair to say any year is the year of the zombie, frankly, because I won't say all. There's enough zombie games that come out every year, so it'd have to be a very dominant year. PC Gamer has a first impressions of a game called Matcha Villana, which I don't think is out yet, so I might talk about that on Wednesday. But I'm gonna probably scroll down Twitter here and not see anything because of Memorial Day. This is one of those rare instances in which we're not doing any, not gonna go late. 2 hours ago, episode 907 of Hearthstone aired. Probably several. Let's see. Apparently a Bloodborne prototype map was found hidden in Dark Souls Remastered, then imported to GTA 5. for some reason. That seems like a crazy PC gamer thing. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article about a game we'll talk about on Wednesday. The president of the ESA calls for self-regulation of loot boxes. No surprise there, because ESA is already self-regulation, so they're literally calling for self-regulation on top of self-regulation. They're doing everything in their possibility to stop governments from looking into loot box gambling. So yeah, I have no interest in watching this PC Gamer article of Trevor from GTA 5 running around a prototype Bloodborne map.
No
3 hours ago, Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2 Episode 10 aired on my channel.
Reporting for duty.
Long-awaited VR stealth game budget cuts going to be released this Thursday. I guess we'll talk about that Wednesday. Let's see. I think at a point I'm gonna have to scroll down past a certain point to get Twitter to show me new content. Again, 4 hours ago, Assassin's Creed Revelations Episode 4 is there, so there's still a lot of time to catch up and get into that one. Let's see,
Reporting for duty.
why am I still following AMD Gaming?
Reporting for duty.
I guess they don't tweet that much.
Reporting for duty.
Randy Pitchford, the CEO of Gearbox, did come out and say that, as they are the publisher of We Happy Few, that he kind of pointed out that We Happy Few is a game about censorship being censored by Australia's rating board. I think it was probably a little too early to come out swinging, because in the background they're still probably trying to get it actually approved. If they don't ever get it approved, then that would be about the time to point out the accurate description that the Australians classification board is literally censoring that game and not allowing it to be sold. 5 hours ago, Star Wars The Clone Wars Republic Heroes number 13 aired on my channel. Let's keep on scrolling down. A new game came out 6 hours ago I didn't see. It doesn't look like it's good. We'll talk about it on Wednesday. There's another game that came out 6 hours ago that I don't think I saw. Apparently Sledgehammer Games might be announcing something tomorrow. That would be interesting. Here's another game we'll talk about on Wednesday. Let's see. Blizzard aims to expand the Overwatch League by 6 teams. Interesting, I suppose. They want Overwatch to be an esport, a major, like, NFL going on for a long time esport, and I don't know if that's realistic at all. See, I'm looking at content on my Twitter page that says it's 7 hours old. I didn't see it 3 hours ago when I started streaming, because that was the very first thing I did, and just scroll down my Twitter looking for content. So it seems like the time is not in line with when it actually gets shown to you, almost as if there's a delayed filtering happening, which maybe there is a delayed filtering happening on all content posted to Twitter before it gets released to followers. PC Gamer has another pointless article about which PC game has the best fishing minigame. You know they're running out of ideas when they write one of those. Only a few more days left to get the Lenar's Golden Garden card back added to your collection. So you have to get 5 ranked victories, which I've done on everything except for my mobile account, my secondary account, which who cares about that? I was so bored one day I was trying to actually play that because I have like 2 mandatory quests and still didn't make any progress on it. It's just too much work, too much extra playing of Hearthstone for no real good reason.
The sun has set for me.
Behold the might of storm
Right,
wind.
that's content we saw before. So now I just need to start scrolling down a little bit faster and see if there's any new content that loads. For me, the Twitter hits a spinning circle that just never continues after you hit the spinning circle a couple times. Still haven't played enough Battlecry cards. Do we have anything else that we need to do? We need to do Monster Hunt battle bosses too. Let's do that. Monster Hunt. What are we playing? Probably Jade. Take the Jade and play. So I need to get the battle cries done, but I guess I'm gonna leave it for Friday, or I might even play it off screen to get these boss battles done. Like they're not the most entertaining things in the world. They're pretty good, but they're not great. Scroll down. I'm gonna burn out my finger scrolling down so much. That is 1 damage with no sound effect. There's a Battlecry character.
Not once, but twice.
The Humble Spring Sale is about done, or maybe even has finished. The Humble Spring Sale would have been another opportunity for people to buy games on the cheap. Direct message me the codes, and that would be rather helpful too. Wherever people can get the games cheap, as long as they end up with a Steam code at the end. Like, I wouldn't promote G2A, but I also wouldn't inherently denounce somebody that bought games keys there. The problem with something like G2A and the other stolen key sites is that I would get a key, it wouldn't work, and then that would introduce a lot of awkwardness where somebody sends me a key and I either don't respond back and say, well, this one didn't work actually, or I do respond back and then they feel like they're on the hook to buy a second copy of the key. That's why in general when giving a gift you don't want to buy something that's shady and potentially broken, because it's not just, it's your reputation on the line. Let's see, do this, shuffle that, and do this, and do that, and then return.
What? They fell off a trunk.
Someone call for the doctor.
Scrolling down. Highly unlikely that there's any more. Oh, that little mouse game came and went. I wanted to play that. I still do, but it's now kind of out of relevance. So many games fall out of relevance unless you play them brand new, and it kind of inherently says that they weren't ever actually in relevance in the first place.
Golems are a girl's best friend.
double battle cries because of this guy.
Perfect specimen.
Watch, they fell off a truck.
Let's play this. Play this.
You die now.
Play some control.
Watch, they fell off a truck.
You're so sweet.
Continuously scrolling down. I'm pretty sure I've covered all the content, though. Like, I don't think. I'm seeing stuff from yesterday evening that I saw, and yesterday morning and afternoon that I saw. Let's see. Battlecry summon some Jade Golem. So before we do that, let's make sure we have room. And play this. And take a shadow step while we're at it.
You die now.
Go ahead.
Take another shadow step. Apparently, you got so many opportunities to win here. And there we go. I hit the final bit. And there's 2 new tweets at the top of my Twitter. Let's see. Battlefield 5's minimal system requirements are out there.
Golems are a girl's best friend.
Just take another shadow step. And return. See, I've got like time now, so I can. Let's see. You can look at this PC Gamer article. Machiavellian is a Monster Mansion management sim.
I don't have many cards left.
Graphics don't look amazingly great. Seems like there's a lot on the screen. And there doesn't seem to be a link to a Steam page or anything. So that's what I figured. This is a really early access the game they've been given. Can we win here? Yes, we can.
Is done.
Just keep on playing. I'm scrolling down, reading articles. See, that's like one victory. And so do I want to keep going? Let's not ruin a winning streak. We may just have a silent bit of gameplay here at the end of this recording.
By wing and talon,
Like,
my
this is gonna go
hardy
long
sisters
enough
keep
that
peace in my wood.
let's just hurry up. I could have broken it up and made a 4th episode. Not that I need a 4th episode. So I'm looking at some pictures, a lot of pictures, frankly, of this. I believe it's a It's a PlayStation 4 and PS Vita game coming out July 5th in Japan, and it's planned to come in the PC and PS4 in the North America and Europe releases, but no release date has been set. It's some kind of horror-esque RPG dungeon crawler game, as best I can tell. It's called seems like maybe you're chasing after ghosts or creatures as like a side career.
Your magic only darkens this wood.
So they draw a card for every spell I cast. All right, we can work with that. It's called Zenki Zero. This game is, it looks like it's gonna be your average Japanese dungeon crawler game, which is to say not much. Let's see. I'm just gonna play this again, and then do this, and then play this, and then do this.
I only grow stronger, fool.
The weird thing is I could play this, then do this, and then play this again, and just keep on filling my deck with surly mobs that would destroy enemies. Let's just see how this works. Mark of the Wild? Oh my goodness, it's bugged. Nobody's played Mark of the Wild. Oh, apparently they did play Mark of the Wild. Well, that seems crazy. Apparently you can't do surly mob. They programmed it out. PC Gamer's article, ESA present defense loot boxes once against government regulations. Michael Gallagher said opting for the lowest common denominator of government regulation will stifle creativity. Like, important to always remember the ESA is nothing but a industry organization designed to lobby and to stop the government from actually regulating games. And they're only really regulating the games from 2 points too. It's are you selling appropriate content to appropriately aged people, and are you engaging in, now with the loot box controversy, something that is directly harmful to people and dangerous.
Job done.
Or manipulative. PC Gamers, the long-awaited VR stealth game Budget Cuts to release this Thursday. Let's watch the trailer for Budget Cuts as we're still playing. I guess if I lose, that'll be the end of this recording. It wouldn't be too much to go play a game and... Let's see. Let's play this.
Try your luck.
Calm down, I'm a
Play this. So, what is Budget Cuts? I'm supposed to be watching the trailer, but I haven't seen it. Seems like there's a bunch of robots, and you're playing as a robot, pretending to work like a human in an office. And there's like some hide and seek element, or you're sneaking around an office, maybe doing some kind of corporate espionage. It's a lot of throwing things and attacking the robots. I played poorly before. Let's see. So I'm gonna try and correct that. 12 cards to 14 cards. Budget Cuts is going to cost $30. It is on Steam, but I'm not going to even bother to wishlist it because, like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't look like it's a game that would survive 10 or 20 years from now when VR. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Even 5 years from now. Let's say I plan on having a VR headset in 5 years from now. Probably not even then, but let's just guess. That game, Budget Cuts, doesn't look like a game that we would be playing at that time. Let's just use them with 2 cards versus 13 cards. Let's see, what is this? Game Jungle on Steam. The main gameplay screen is so zoomed out, and it seems like you're playing as some kind of action tower defense brawler, it seems like, or missions, or it's just not a, it's a shooter. It's a, I guess, twin stick shooter, but you're leading your army to victory. Maybe you're just driving the truck in the background and you set up an army to protect your own truck. So it's kind of a tower defense thing.
Go ahead.
First kill.
Yeah.
I love
Jungle Juggle. First game from this developer, no discount, $2.99. The graphics kill it for me. It looks like a real game, it just doesn't look like a game that interests me. And so much for quick victories there. So then the question becomes, if I come over here, I need to play 7 more Battlecry things or get 2 more victories. It'd be rather easy to play the victories. I'm just instead going to, might as well play range. You know, you never know. You might win. We're working towards those 500 ranked victories. So we need to play 7 Battlecry cards. Then we'll be done for today. There's a game called Fated Kingdom that's some kind of board game, but it doesn't seem like there's actually any rules or forced on it, so you're just able to put cards wherever you want, roll the dice wherever you want. There may be some rules there, but I think it still allows for a lot of cheating, which kind of undoes any reason why you would ever want to play a game on a PC version versus just playing the actual board game, where it would be quicker. This,
Speak your
this,
peace.
inventory. This also seems like it's a Fated Kingdom is a digital board game. It doesn't seem like it's based on a real board game, so there's no popularity. There's no single player, it's early access. It's probably very lazy to say the game is not forcing any rules. And the more like this recommendation is just to play Tabletop Simulator, which I agree is Tabletop Simulator is going to do you better, almost certainly, than anything that tries to do similar things. There's one not recommended review for no single player. That's all it says. And I agree. At 10% off for $8.99 from a developer that I don't believe has made anything else. Nope. Yep, so we can close that. We're back to reading game reviews. But there aren't too many. We should have played 6 Battlecry cards at least now. There's a game called Nothing But Net, a VR basketball game. Looks pretty good. It's still a weird though, because you're jumping around, seemingly passing to yourself, holding the ball in a weird way. You're not dribbling. You're not really playing basketball. You're just kind of passing to yourself and trying to get, I am assuming, a lot of 3-point shots.
What a bother.
There's some mini games and other elements here that might add something to it. The referee is a robot for some reason, and seems like there's a decent number of dude perfect type elements, like you can break the glass, you can shoot from higher distances. Let's see what the price is. 40 Steam achievements, requires Oculus Rift, 30% off, $6.99. I think Nothing But Net, if you had VR, probably does offer something. There's 4 positive and 1 negative review. And the negative review is an arcade toony style, sounds were not good, didn't like it. It was more of a sim. If it was more of a sim, it would work great. And there's tons of basketball and sports VR games already, so the competition is tightest in making a VR sports game. And this is from a developer who's made nothing else. 30% off for $6.99. It looks like a good game. It suffers slightly from a generic idea. Let's see. And next game we have is a Black Roses. It's called Black Roses. It's a 2D time trial shooter platformer. You must fight your way through the game as fast as possible to beat other people's speeds. That's what it says it is, but what really it is just a garbage looking game that seems like it was probably made by a student. Graphics aren't MS Paint level, but they're just ever so close to it. Not good looking. 99 cents. It's still too expensive for a game that looks like that. Next game we have on Steam is called Traffic Cop, which we already had a game that was similar to this, and this is a completely different one. In fact, it looks a lot more detailed. Unfortunately, it's a VR game selling for $19.99, so it's way too expensive. Considering you're playing as a police officer standing in the middle of the road, and you're directing traffic, telling people to go forward and in different directions, with a kind of point and click interface that's awkward and not in line what you would
Love my new recipe.
what you would expect, how the game should work. And then you apparently can throw trash at people as they pass by if they're near, and cause accidents. And the donut shop will throw donuts towards you that you can eat, and apparently you have a slingshot for no reason. Like, what a weird mess of a game. Way too expensive. So that's the other thing. That's the only thing you really need to know. We have a game called The Other Side of the Screen. And it looks like it's a cheap kind of asset flip horror game. Which you've probably seen a lot of them. This is the only game from this developer. It's $1.99, nothing on discount. Rush. Says it's an indie gore action horror with great soundtrack. The trailer's showing off some animation of 2D characters that don't even show up in any of the other screenshots where it's a 3D game. This is in English and Russian, so I'm fairly certain now it is a terrible Russian game. The only review in English is not recommended. Keep playing these battle cries. I'm about to lose, but that's alright. I have a game called Planet Unknown Runner. It's just an infinite runner garbage game. Don't really need to say anything else there. 40% off for 59 cents, no reviews. Let's see. We got a game called Zombie Force 2, which is a top-down dual-stick shooter zombie game. Thematically and artistically, it is a little bit more put together than you normally would expect, but it still doesn't look very good. And it's $11.99, and I believe this developer has released something else. The thumbnail. No, nothing else released. Yeah. It's funny, I can almost certainly remember this developer's name, so is he just putting things on Steam and then they're getting taken off? Or he's taking them off and putting them back on? Zombie Force 2, weird game to have a sequel to, considering you already it's the only game you have available for purchase. Then we go back to Twitter. So we're done. Wednesday we'll deal with this. If it becomes an issue, I might do this off screen, but I don't think a reason to do that. We've gone 50 extra minutes in streaming. It seems like that is very consistently being an issue. I don't know if they maybe it's fixing some things though, because it's stopping my Hearthstone series from moving drastically far ahead in the future, even though it is probably several months further ahead than anything else. That's gonna be it for this recording and this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. When you subscribe, please click the notification bell. Maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't. Do it anyways. And if you want to support me even further, gift me a game on Steam or a gift card on Steam. Help me build up some financing for the next Steam summer sale. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.